today a little bit about where we at homeschooling and the law and the BELA bill and some updates that we've done on our website. But I thought let's just make it a little bit more human, first of all. And in your days prior to children, you were a journalist. Well, you functioned and worked as a journalist, and you put your journalistic skills to great use over the last month. And you've created for us on our website and for homeschooling parents a really comprehensive look at what the laws are in South Africa that govern education, that govern homeschooling, the Schools Act, and what's going on with the BELA bill, and whether home visits, which is part of the BELA bill, whether those are legal, whether we should assess and what we shouldn't. And we also put together, well, in fact, let me give you credit where credit is due. You put together comparison tables of CAPS, curriculum statements stating what children need to know when. And we took it and we ran it alongside Footprints and what Footprints has done. And I think that what bears saying right at the start, when we launched Footprints in 2002, CAPS wasn't even an idea. It wasn't there. And just naturally, as moms, we knew what children are ready to learn and what they're interested in. And so all of that's up on the website. But thanks for doing that. I think that it's been really good for a lot of parents. We've been sharing the links on Facebook and we've had a lot of positive feedback. But let's jump in with where are we at today? Here we sit middle of May, and some big things happened in the last week. So let us know. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, well, possibly parents know that the BELA bill has reached its final stage. It was passed by the National Assembly, and the last step is now for the president to sign it into law. And with the election day looming, possibly it's going to happen quickly because they want to get these laws passed before any surprises happen after the election, I guess. But this has been coming on since 2014. This draft bill has been in process. And so because we all feel anxious when we anticipate that there could be changes in the law, I've followed it quite closely, and I've been privileged to be in some of the meetings that we had in Pretoria, and even online meetings with the Western Cape Education Department, and roundtables that were set up by the DBE to try and listen to interested parties. So it's been quite an interesting thing. And I think the more you learn and the more you know, the more informed you can be, and you can make a good choice calmly and rationally and not feel panicky and stressed and pressured. And that's why we wanted to put this information on our website, so that new homeschooling parents who perhaps haven't been doing it very long, or who haven't followed this whole legal process very closely and are now wondering, oh, what's going on? Oh my gosh, what do I need to change? Can just go and read these articles and find information that helps you to know, because it's not straightforward. And we all like to be law-abiding citizens, and most of us are most of the time. But that's why lawyers have jobs, because sometimes laws need to be challenged and interpreted, and there can be conflicts between one set of laws and another set of laws. And that seems to be one of the questions that's been asked for years in the homeschooling scenario. So I just want people to know, you don't have to panic and do school at home and do the CAPS curriculum. That's not what the law says. And even if you're using a program like Footprints or many other good homeschooling programs, you will easily meet the minimum requirements, which is what the law says at the moment. Children must meet the minimum requirements. And I think many of us haven't read the document, and I hadn't until recently. And I was amazed to see that the CAPS document, for example, for little children in the foundation phase, which is grades 1 to 3, they have to have free play. It's written in. They have to learn basic hygiene. They must learn to pack away and put books away and clear up after themselves. So that's chores. They've got to learn good manners and etiquette. And these are all things that as parents, we naturally do in our homes anyway. So before you've even opened a book, you've met a whole bunch of those criteria, whether you were intending to or not. So I just want parents to know that it's actually really quite easy to meet those requirements if you want to, if you're concerned about them. But if you're using an American program or a British program or your own made-up program or a footprints program, anything that's not CAPS, you're probably doing a fantastic job anyway. And the highest law of the land says you must carry on and do what's in your children's best interests.
Correct.
But maybe I should stop talking and we can address some of the questions that you think parents might have.
Yeah. So the biggest one is must I do CAPS, right? And you've addressed that. And I think that even on Facebook, overnight you put a statement saying that the department does not want to take away a parent's freedom of choice with regards to the curriculum. So I'm assuming that was said in a time of parliamentary debate.
No, it was a press release published by the Department of Basic Education in March this year, 2024. So it sounds great, but it will be interesting to see whether every official in every province adheres to that statement, because as we've seen in the past, sometimes different officials working in different capacities misunderstand or misrepresent what's required, and then parents feel obligated to do what that person says. And that's why it's so important for parents to know what the law says, to know what is required, and to know what they feel they're willing to do and what is in their children's best interests.
So then the next question that we get is, do we have to register with the Department of Education? Now that's probably another chat all on its own. And again, we'll put the links below where we've got a very complete and thorough article on registration and is it legal, isn't it legal, and what is the loophole and how do we do this? But let's just say that parents should register with the Pestalozzi Trust. They are the legal defense organization for homeschoolers in South Africa, as well as cottage schools and tutor centers and private schools. They represent education across the board. It's not that it's an exclusive club, but register with them and follow their advice. But onto that, what would you add, Shirley?
Yeah, I think it's important for families to get specific legal advice for their situation. So you and I are just going to talk in general, but for example, people with foster children or people where there's a divorce happening in the family may get different advice to the average other family who's just doing what's in the best interest of their children and feel they don't want to register and have an outsider make decisions on behalf of their children, potentially. So yeah, to register or not to register is a very spicy question. And I think this is where parents need to understand that principle of the best interest of the child versus the other laws that affect children and their privacy, such as the privacy policy, the Children's Act. I can't remember there's some other laws too.
Yeah.
And so it's not a straightforward yes, you must or no, you mustn't. And anybody who jumps up like a policeman and said, yes, you must or no, you mustn't, you need to ask them why and then decide whether those reasons apply to your family at this particular point in time.
Yeah.
So it's not straightforward.
No, it's not straightforward.
And most parents don't register, as far as I know. I did once see numbers that were displayed in a meeting with the Department of Basic Education, and they were shockingly low. I couldn't believe that there were actually so few parents who had registered for home education. So if you don't want to register, you will be with the vast majority of home educating parents, I would guess, at this point in time. And I think it would take, something drastic for somebody to come and investigate you.
Yeah.
As long as you are not depriving your children of education, you're homeschooling, it's perfectly legal. You're not doing anything wrong. You might be neglecting a bit of paperwork and red tape if you think it's not in your children's best interest, but that's up to you.
Yeah. Then the next layer in this multifaceted discussion is assessments and tests. Into it's a big one, and we see it often on social media. Where do I get my child assessed? The end of grade 3, the different phases, grade 6, grade 9. And how do we assess? So for instance, if my children are doing a mix of footprints and some British curriculum and a little bit of American curriculum, and now all of a sudden at the end of grade 6, they've got to be assessed, by what standard are they going to be assessed? Because they're certainly not using CAPS. So what is your take after your research on assessments?
I think this is the most uncomfortable new requirement that's being put into law by the BELA bill. And I think it's not based, I don't think it's been well thought through. I don't think they've consulted with stakeholders properly. They haven't listened to the complaints and the grievances that homeschoolers have tried to convey. And I think this is going to be a fundamental flaw in this law. I really hope so. And I think it's possibly going to be challenged in the Constitutional Court. And anyway, as you say, we are free as homeschoolers to choose any curriculum as long as it meets the minimum requirements of the national curriculum. But to have our children assessed by the competent assessor, which by their definition is a registered teacher, school teachers are not well trained. They don't understand home education. Most of them haven't read the research on it. They don't understand all the nuances and all the variations and all the wild ways that we successfully homeschool our children. So they've got that school mindset and that schoolish way of doing formal assessments. CAP says that children should be informally assessed too. And that's what we as parents do every day. We see them doing their work, we see their writing, we listen to their questions, we hear them reading, we discuss things with them, we debate things with them, we go on outings with them, we see how they're engaging with what they're learning, when they're bored, when they love it. All those are informal assessments that we do without even thinking about it as formal assessments. So the formal assessment side is more like judging children's assignments and tests and essays and the schoolish way of doing things. And a teacher who doesn't know the child and what they've been doing is not going to be the best person to assess a home educated learner. So the law says, the SA Constitution, that parents and every decision relating to a child must be in the child's best interests. So now as a parent, you need to decide whether you think that requirement is in your children's best interests or not. And I think most parents will not. The cost of that assessment is likely to also be a factor, that you are now being forced to do this. And there's actually research that shows that in young children, tests and exams can be detrimental to their learning rather than an aid. So this is really just a requirement to make homeschoolers fit into that bureaucratic system where they keep test scores and reports as a record of learning. And it doesn't suit the homeschool scenario at all. So I think parents mustn't worry about it. And if you do want to submit reports and assessments, we have got an article to help you to do that. But also, don't fear that you're not doing enough and that your kids' marks are not high enough. I don't think that the bureaucrats who are going to enter these scores into their system really care what the kids' marks are, as long as they have a mark. So that they've got a record, these kids are being home educated, here are their scores. That's just my personal view. But, they're not looking to see, oh, the homeschoolers are all getting A's or this child got a D. I don't think that's going to be the scenario. So I think parents just, again, don't stress about it. If your child is a learner who struggles, that's all the more reason for them to be home educating and getting one-on-one attention. So all our children don't have to be academic superstars. Some of them do excel and some of them don't, but parents don't have to fear that assessment. You've got to do what's in your child's best interest.
Yeah, I think, what we've always tried to do with homeschooling parents is to encourage and empower the mother or the dad if he's the homeschooling parent. And not that we need to be naive and walk around with blinkers. You know, you said right at the beginning, inform yourself, educate yourself. But often what happens when we have that knowledge is that we tend to panic and fear, and we run to people for advice who have vested interests. There are certain curriculum providers who report to the department that they have got family X or family Y now enrolled with them. And, you know, that's, for me, that's obviously overstepping the curriculum provider boundary. But we need to also be very aware that once we have the knowledge, it only empowers if it doesn't put you into that place of fear. And our goal has always been to say to parents, these are your children, this is your home, you have more than enough capacity to homeschool your children all the way. Should parents choose to put their kids in for the last 3 years into a school, or you know, that's not the point. But we do believe that parents have the capacity and ability, because there is nobody else in the world that loves them and has their best hopes and interests at heart like they do. And I'm just thinking back on a personal anecdote. Our one child was not fluent in reading at the time that the average child was reading. And, you know, I knew as a mom that there was a disconnect, and did the research, found the stuff that we needed to help the child learn to read. And, you know, after a 3-year period with the program, they were an established reader. And that for me, as a anecdotal story for other parents, is that these assessments that are being demanded, you as a mom, as a parent, already know what your children know and what they don't know. When you seek advice from people, make sure that you are seeking from a person who is going to build you up in your role as homeschooling parent, who's going to give you correct, valuable advice, which is why we highly recommend the Pestalozzi Trust for seeking advice for the legal stuff. But use the OTs, use what you need, but make sure that they are there to empower and equip and encourage you in your job and not actually undermine you. So when you have a wobbly, when you've got your knowledge, be sure to take it to the right place. You know, a lot of the public forums on Facebook, very divided spaces. So yeah, the last point that I thought that we could talk about, because that for me has always been the biggest concern, is the home visits. I find that thinking is very invasive. Some parents are very happy to throw open their doors, and it's not like the ones that don't have something to hide. But I just think back to my children with their neurodiversity. That would have been really, really traumatic for them to have an official in their space. What is your take on home visits that are going to be required by the BELA bill?
Actually, the BELA bill wording was edited. I think it was the Pestalozzi Trust that brought this to their attention. And the last that I've seen, it says, in considering the application, the head of department may, on just cause shown and after notification to the parent, require a delegated official to conduct a pre-registration consultation with the parents and learner. But it doesn't have to be a home visit. So it could be at another venue if it is even required. Of course, this doesn't mean that in certain provinces, certain officials might tell parents, we need to do a home visit.
Yeah.
And if they do, you need to stand up and protect your children's privacy, which is required by the law.
Yeah.
Parents must protect children's right to privacy. And nobody can come into your family home without a court order unless it's an emergency. So you have a right to say no and to ask for more information. Definitely, you know, why do they want this visit? What do they intend to find out? What do they want to see? And I would definitely get legal advice before allowing anything like that, just because I think as home educators, we do need to push back when officials overstep the boundaries of the law. So, you know, I like to tell the story of the traffic cop. If he came into your yard and told you that you must wash your car today and you must have red seat covers, you would tell him to get lost, because that's not what traffic cops are there to do. They don't have the right to come into your property and tell you things that are not required by the law.
Yeah.
And so if it were a similar scenario with home education and some official wants to come to your home to look at things that are not required by law, you absolutely should say no. So a home visit shouldn't happen, and it's not required by the BELA bill, which is not passed yet, but even if it is passed, it can be a consultation where you meet at a coffee shop or a library and you ask them what they want, or they can ask you what they want, and it doesn't have to be at your children's home.
Okay, that's great. So listening to all of this, let's just do a very quick summary. Is that it's on the president's desk, the BELA bill. We now wait and we pray, and we trust ourselves to God, but we continue to keep calm and homeschool on. That would pretty much be the advice, you know.
Yes, keep calm, carry on, and your children's best interests must be the highest priority in every decision pertaining to your children. Not what some official wants, not the red tape they want. Keep your children, you know, as the highest priority.
Yeah, fantastic. That's excellent. Thanks so much, Joyce.